Let's dive into a really cool musical mystery that totally blew up online. It's all about a hit anime song that has this one little moment that sounds so beautiful, but also so wrong, it almost has to be a mistake. The question is it?
Okay, so the song we're talking about is called Skirt by the artist Aiko, and it was the opening for the anime Apocalypse Hotel. Right from the very first line, music fans were all over it, trying to figure out what was going on. Everyone was basically asking the same thing. How can the intro to this song sound like such a beautiful accident?
You know, one analyst online, PS Gozi, just nailed it with this quote. They said, listening to it is like a weird food pairing that should be disgusting, like herring roe and wine. Your brain is telling you, nope, this doesn't work, but you're still kind of fascinated by it. It's a clash that feels like a mistake, but for some reason you can't stop listening. So let's break down what's really happening here. To really get to the bottom of this, you have to understand that the song is basically creating two totally separate musical worlds. One for the instruments, and a completely different one for the singer's voice. Think of it like this. The instruments are playing on one team, following the classic, stable rules of pop music. They're grounded. But then the vocals come in, and they're on a whole other team, floating around and playing by the free, expressive rules of blues music. The magic, and that feeling of wrongness, happens right where these two worlds crash into each other. So let's look at the instruments world first. The whole thing is built on this one single bass note, an F, that just repeats over and over and over. It's the anchor, right? It gives the song a solid, predictable home base that everything else is supposed to lock into. But then, in comes the vocal melody, and it's a total drifter. It's like it didn't even get the memo about that F note. The melody is just floating around, as if its home base is a totally different key, the key of C. And that's where you get that gorgeous clash.
And you know what? There's actually a name for this kind of organized chaos. It's called polytonality. It's when you deliberately smash multiple musical keys together at the same time. So this isn't a sloppy mistake. It's actually a pretty sophisticated musical technique.
All right, so we've got these two clashing keys. Now let's zoom in even closer and look for clues inside the vocal performance itself, because this is where we find the most compelling evidence, the notes that live between the keys. To do that, we need to talk about something called microtones. Just picture a piano keyboard with all the white keys and black keys, while microtones are the notes that exist in the tiny, invisible spaces between all those keys. They're notes our ears aren't used to hearing in pop music, and they can create some really unique feeling.
Okay, Exhibit A. Our biggest piece of evidence shows up in the very first line of the song. The lyric is, Kono hoshi sayonara, which translates to something like, goodbye to a planet like this. And the so-called accident happens right here.
If you listen super closely to the syllable now-ho, analysis shows she lands perfectly on a pitch that literally does not exist on a piano. It's right in between two standard notes. And she doesn't just brush past it, she holds it there steady and confident. It's a static microtone, which means it has to be on purpose.
And that begs the real question, right? Why would you do that? What is the point of landing so perfectly in that musical no man's land? A pro singer doesn't make a choice that specific by accident. Something else is going on. And the evidence just keeps piling up. It's not just that one super specific microtone. The singer also uses what we call dynamic blue notes. That's when you intentionally sing a little bit flat or sharp and kind of slide into and out of the note. It's a classic blues move, and it adds yet another layer of that expressive wrongness to the song. So, what have we got? We have two different keys. We have these weird notes between the keys. We have bluesy slides. It's time to put all the clues together and get to a verdict. Was this all just a happy accident? Or was it a brilliant plan all along?
Okay, here it is, the absolute smoking gun. Later in the song, that same musical line comes back. And guess what? The accident happens again, but this time she sings it with even more of that off-key, bluesy, loose feeling.
I mean, think about it. An accident is a one-off thing. It's random. But a pattern, especially a pattern that you repeat and then exaggerate the second time, that's not an accident. That is 100% an artistic choice. This proves it was all intentional. So why do it? What's the point? It's all about creating a vibe, an aesthetic.
The goal of this intentional looseness is to paint a picture of a character who is maybe a little bit cutesy, a little bit spoiled, or cheeky. She even throws in some vocal tricks from idol pop, like a little hiccup sound. It's all designed to be provocative, a performance that's charming because it's so perfectly off-kilter. So, we know it was on purpose, and we know why. But this brings us to the final and honestly the most genius part of this whole thing. How are they actually hacking the rules of pop music? There's one last trick here, and it is just brilliant.
What's the final piece of the puzzle? How does one single wrong note create a feeling that's so rich and complicated? Here it is. It's called the 2-for-1 hack. The singer hits that one microtone, which, remember, is sitting perfectly in between two normal notes. Now, because our brains are so programmed to hear the standard 12 notes, we try to solve the puzzle. And in that moment of confusion, our brain actually starts to hear both of the standard notes at the same time. This is the big idea. That single, perfectly placed wrong note is like a cheat code for our musical brain. It tricks us into hearing more complexity and richness than is actually being sung. It's like getting 2 notes for the price of 1. It's a total hack of our system.
And that's really the solution to the mystery. To someone who knows music theory, the song feels wrong because it's just shattering the rules of harmony. But it feels so incredibly right to listen to because it's not chaos. It's following its own secret, brilliant logic. And that just leaves us with one final, fascinating thought. This song shows how breaking the rules can create something amazing and new. It really makes you wonder, if being wrong can sound this good, what other musical rules are just out there, waiting for the right artist to come along and break them?